This story is generated and narrated by AI. If the voice sounds a little off at times, feel free to let us know in the comments. Your feedback helps us improve. Have you ever gone off trail in a forest and felt like something was watching you the entire time? Well, let me tell you what happened the day I agreed to take 2 tourists into the Black Forest. I wasn't supposed to take them there. In fact, I made a promise, not the kind sealed with paper or payment, but something older, instinctual, the kind you make when a place speaks to you and tells you to keep away, but that was years ago. And I've learned that money has a way of making promises grow quiet. Theo and Nina were waiting for me outside the old guest house near Baden-Württemberg, 2 tourists, city types, one with a laugh too loud for the trees, and one who barely spoke at all. Theo extended his hand first, already grinning. "You must be the guide. Eric, right?" We were hoping for something a little more exclusive, off the trail, you know, the good stuff. He was recording me on his phone the entire time. Sunglasses and fog, brand new boots, neon jacket. The kind of man who thought wilderness was a backdrop for his follower count. I nodded, said nothing. Nina stood a few feet behind him, quiet, but her eyes never stopped moving. They kept drifting to the trees behind me, like she was reading something I couldn't see. I tried to steer them toward the normal path, well-marked, safe, full of scenic spots that were easy to survive, but Theo shook his head. "Nah, I've done all that before. We want real nature, real forest." Then he winked. "And between you and me, we can tip pretty well if it's just the 3 of us out there, off the record." That night, I dreamed of the forest, not a trail or a clearing, but something deeper. I was inside it, but the trees had turned their backs to me. Their bark was bleeding, and I could hear something breathing under the moss. When I woke, my hands were clenched into fists, and the tips of my fingers were cold. The next morning, we packed light, just the essentials: water, first aid, food, my map, and an old compass I hadn't used in years. Theo brought 3 cameras. Nina brought a silver charm on a necklace. Neither would help them. We set off before sunrise. At first, I stuck to the familiar path enough to lull them into ease. Gravel crunching beneath our boots, a little wind cutting through the pine. It was peaceful in that way tourists like, still enough to imagine danger, but safe enough to forget it. After an hour, I veered east. There was no sign, just a narrowing gap between 2 birch trees. Theo laughed. "Now we're talking." Nina didn't speak, but I noticed her fingers tightening around the charm at her neck. We walked for another 2 hours, deeper than most ever go. Here, the forest changed. The underbrush grew thicker. The moss began crawling up the trees like veins, and the light bent, not darker exactly, just wrong. Birdsong stopped. Even the wind refused to follow us. Theo joked a lot at first, called it premium content, kept turning back to film me in that influencer tone. "Eric here is taking us through some legit haunted woods today, folks. Place hasn't been on the map since World War II. I didn't correct him. I didn't tell him the reason the trail wasn't on the map was because it wasn't a trail." Around midday, we reached a ridge where the forest floor dropped off sharply, a steep hollow covered in ferns and crumbling stone. At the center stood an ancient boundary marker, nothing official, just a waist-high stone slab half swallowed by roots. A spiral was carved into its face, wide at the top, narrowing into a tight knot near the base. I'd seen it once before, back when I was a boy. Back when my uncle told me never to go past it. "You all right, man?" Theo asked. "You went kinda quiet there." I lied, just thinking how much further we have before camp. Nina didn't say anything, but she took a step backward. Her boots landed on a patch of dead moss, the only patch of dead moss we'd seen all day. We crossed the boundary. I should have stopped them, but I didn't. I don't think I could have even if I tried. Once we passed the stone, the air changed. It wasn't just colder, it was thicker, like every breath took effort. Theo's compass stopped working. He laughed, shook it, tapped the glass, tried again. Must be some iron under the ground or something. Happens all the time in these places, right? I didn't answer, because my compass had stopped too, and my map didn't match the terrain anymore. We made camp near a circle of trees that had grown too close together, so tight that the bark on each side had begun fusing with the next. Theo called it creepy but aesthetic. Nina sat on a log and refused to eat. That's when she spoke, finally. Her voice was quiet, almost like she was afraid the trees might hear. My grandmother used to tell me stories about this forest. Theo rolled his eyes. Let me guess. Witches and wolves and fairy rings, right? Nina didn't smile. She disappeared here when she was 16. No body was ever found. Just her necklace. It looked exactly like this one. She held it up, silver, simple, old. I didn't know what to say, so I poked at the fire and said nothing. That night, I dreamed again. This time, I was walking in the forest alone, but I wasn't moving. The trees were shifting around me, rotating slowly like the inside of a clock, and far above, something was watching me from the branches, not with eyes, with memory. I woke to the sound of whispering. Not words, not language, just a shape that sounded wrong. Theo was standing by the fire, swaying slightly, whispering something to himself over and over. His camera was still, filming, pointed directly at Nina, who slept with her back turned. I reached for him. Hey, you all right? He didn't react, just kept whispering. I moved closer, put a hand on his shoulder. His skin was ice cold. He finally turned to me, eyes half-lidded, lips moving. I leaned in, only caught one word, again. Then he blinked and smiled like nothing had happened. Man, you scared me. I must have been sleepwalking, crazy, huh? He turned off the camera, laughed, but his voice was just a little too flat, and his smile was a little too wide. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, because I knew something Theo didn't. There are places in this forest that don't want to be walked on, and once you step into them, you never really leave. Morning never really came. It just grew less dark. I sat by the dead fire for hours, watching the trees, waiting for the birds to start singing again. They never did. When Theo finally stirred from his tent, he didn't mention the night before, didn't talk about the whispering, or the camera, or that single dreadful word, just stretched, yawned, and said, "We good to go." I didn't answer right away because Nina's tent was empty. Her pack was gone. No footprints, no drag marks, nothing, just the silver necklace, placed carefully on the log where she'd sat the night before. Theo stared at it for a long time, then shrugged. She probably just got freaked out. City people aren't built for this kind of thing. Maybe she turned back. He pointed downhill. She knows the way back, right? No, she didn't. She never saw the map, and the path we took wasn't on any map anyway. I picked up the necklace. It was warm, too warm, like it had been held or worn by someone not human. I dropped it into my coat pocket and zipped it shut. We packed in silence. Theo's jokes had stopped. He kept glancing over his shoulder like he expected something to be behind him. We moved forward, not because we knew the way, but because going back felt worse. As we hiked, the trees changed again. They stopped growing straight. Some curved sharply to the side, others bent completely into circles, like they were trying to curl inward, away from the light. The bark grew slick and pale, almost translucent. Every few meters, I'd see scratches in the trunks, not claw marks, symbols, lines and spirals and crosses, crude, carved deep. filled with black moss. I didn't point them out to Theo. He was already walking faster than me, like something was pushing him forward. At noon, or what should have been noon, the fog rolled in, thick, unnatural, from nowhere. 1 second the forest was empty. The next, I couldn't see 5 feet in front of me. Theo vanished from view. I called his name. No reply, just footsteps. Too many of them, not running, not walking, just circling. I gripped the compass again. It spun wildly in my palm, then stopped, pointing behind me. I turned. There was nothing there, just fog, and the faint sound of breathing. Not mine, something slow, heavy, wet. I stepped backward and found myself back at the stone marker. The spiral had changed. Where before it had been carved into the surface, now it was raised, bulging outward, twisting in on itself like a tumor. The ground around it was cracked, the soil black and sticky. Theo was there, standing perfectly still, staring at the stone. His phone was in his hand, but the screen was black, not off, just dead. I called his name. He didn't turn, didn't blink, didn't move. I stepped closer. Then I heard it, Nina's voice, whispering from the trees. "Come this way. Don't leave me. I'm just over here." It came from all directions, not an echo, not memory, new. I spun around, searching, nothing but white fog and twisted trees. When I turned back, Theo was gone. I should have run, should have gone back to the boundary stone, buried the necklace, whispered a prayer. Instead, I followed the voice. The trees narrowed. Their branches formed archways above my head, long tunnels of bark and thorns. Every breath I took felt wrong. The air didn't smell like pine anymore. It smelled like wet earth, like roots and rot and iron. And under that, something sweet, too sweet, like overripe fruit or old blood. I walked until my legs ached. Hours maybe, or minutes. Time was breaking. My watch had stopped. The light never changed. No sun, no shadows, just fog, and the sound of my own boots on soil, and behind that, something else, another set of footsteps. Always just a second behind. I stopped. They stopped. I ran. They followed, but I never turned to see. Eventually, I reached a clearing, small, circular, unnaturally perfect. In the center stood a tree unlike any I'd ever seen. Black bark, no leaves, its trunk split into two at the top, like antlers. At its base, a pit, shallow, round, full of water that reflected nothing, just darkness. And beside it, Theo, sitting on the edge, staring down. His camera was beside him, lens cracked. He didn't look up when I called his name, didn't move when I touched his shoulder. His skin was dry now, too dry, like bark. Then he spoke, very softly. "It watches through the roots." I knelt beside him. "What does?" His eyes slowly turned toward me, but they weren't his anymore. They were solid black, like the inside of the pit. "It wants stories." He smiled. Then he fell forward into the water. I lunged after him, but the surface had already gone still. No splash, no ripple, just smooth, perfect dark. I reached out to touch it. My fingers went through, like smoke. Then the whispers started again. "You brought them. You crossed the line. You broke the promise." They weren't angry. They were hungry. I ran. I don't remember the path. Don't remember how long. I just remember bursting through the trees and collapsing at the base of the same boundary marker I'd crossed days before. Only this time, it was clean. No spiral, no cracks, just cold stone and moss. Behind me, the forest was silent. as if it had closed a door, as if I'd never been. Only the necklace in my pocket proved otherwise, still warm, still pulsing like a heartbeat. I made it out, or at least, I told myself I did. When I stumbled into the logging road, my knees gave out. I collapsed right there in the gravel and dirt, still clutching the necklace like it was the only thing anchoring me to this world. The rescue team found me the next morning. Sunlight burned my eyes. I couldn't answer most of their questions. I don't even remember hearing them approach. I just remember a dull thumping, and the way one of the medics flinched when they touched my skin, like something was wrong with the temperature. They took me back to Freiburg General. 2 days passed before I could speak in full sentences again, 3 before I could eat without vomiting. I told them I got separated from the group, that Theo and Nina must have gotten lost and gone the other way. I lied. Because the truth didn't fit here, not in this world. The search teams never found them, just a section of disturbed earth by the edge of an old hunting trail. The soil had been turned over, not dug, but twisted, as if something had stirred beneath it. They found Theo's phone, cracked in half, still cold to the touch. No one asked why the photos stopped after the second day. No one asked why I'd aged 5 years and 3. Eventually, they let me go. I moved to Munich, changed my name, shut down my guide license, told myself I'd live out my days far from woods, far from paths, far from whatever thing lay breathing under the roots of the Black Forest. But it didn't stay behind, not all of it. The dream started first, always the same. I'm standing at the base of that antlered tree, watching the water ripple. My own reflection twists, splits, then speaks, and Nina's voice, then Theo's, then something else, a voice made of leaves tearing and branches snapping. It says the same thing every time. You heard us. You heard us. You heard us. Some mornings, I wake up with soil under my fingernails. Other days, I find pine needles in my sink. My shower smells like moss. The necklace, I tried to throw it away 3 times. The last time, I dropped it off a bridge into the Isar River, but it was waiting for me the next morning, hanging from my doorknob like a gift, still warm, still pulsing. I stopped trying. I just keep it in a box now, sealed, taped, hidden under a floorboard. It hums some nights, only I can hear it. I don't take clients anymore, but once a year, always in spring, I get a letter. No return address, no name, just a map, and a message written in dark red ink. One must return, one must remember, one must be guide. I burned them, but they always come back. I started hearing things in my apartment, not voices, just movement, a shift in the air, the sound of roots pushing through concrete. Sometimes, when I wake up early, I see shapes in the condensation on the mirror, circles, spirals, sometimes antlers. I saw someone in the subway once, late at night. She looked like Nina from behind. Same coat, same gait. I followed her, but when she turned the corner, she was gone, just a patch of dead leaves left on the platform. And Theo, I saw him in a crowd last autumn, during Oktoberfest. He was across the street, just watching me. Then a tram passed between us, and he vanished. I know what you're thinking, that I'm broken, paranoid, sick. Maybe I am, but if that's true, then why, on cold nights, does my radiator groan in whispers? Why does my wooden desk bleed sap from its corners? Why does every tree I walk past in this city seem to turn slightly when I'm not looking? I don't walk near parks anymore. I don't buy houseplants. I keep all mirrors covered after sunset. Because something crossed with me, and it remembers. And it's waiting. They say if you dream of a place 3 nights in a row, it's your soul trying to return. Last spring, it happened. 3 nights, same forest, same path, same ending. Each time, I'd stand before that antlered tree and hear Theo and Nina whisper from the branches above. Only now, they weren't asking for help anymore. They were calling me by a new name. Guide. I woke up on the 3rd morning with my hiking boots already on, soil in my sheets, a map unfolded on my kitchen table, drawn in the same red ink. But there was something different this time. The map didn't show the forest, it showed the city, the streets. My building, in one word, written where my apartment should be. Here. I packed a bag without knowing why. I didn't question it. Whatever had taken root in me had grown quiet over the years, but now it pulsed, and I understood. It wasn't just in me anymore. It was using me. I boarded a train without a destination. I didn't buy a ticket, didn't speak. The conductor never checked. I think he saw something in my eyes, something hollow. When the train stopped in a nowhere town near the edge of Baden-Württemberg, I stepped off. Fog swallowed the platform. The sun was gone, though it was only 2 p.m. I walked, and the woods found me. Not just trees, but structures, half-formed antlers rising from bark, stones arranged like vertebrae, a path paved with bones pressed flat over centuries, and beneath it all, the sound of something breathing, slow, patient, enormous. The deeper I went, the more the air changed. It tasted like old paper, like the inside of a forgotten church, like skin left too long in the earth. I stopped near a clearing. The tree was there. The one from before, its antlers had grown. Now they scraped the sky, and someone, was hanging from its branches. Not Theo, not Nina, but me, or something that wore my face. Its eyes were open, its mouth too, but the inside of the mouth wasn't red, it was wood grain, as if the forest had sculpted me from bark and shadow. And then I heard the voice again, low, cracking, ancient. Guide. The tree leaned forward, branches reaching, and I understood what it wanted. I dropped to my knees, opened my pack, pulled out the necklace, still warm, still pulsing, and placed it at the base of the tree. The earth opened, roots moved, something pulled it down. And the forest sighed like an animal fed. My body went cold, then light, then not there at all. But I was still aware. I was in the bark, in the wind, in the soil, my thoughts scattered through moss and memory. I became a whisper between leaves. And then I heard footsteps, heavy, human, someone entering the clearing, a woman, alone, looking for her friends. I tried to scream, to warn her, but the wind carried no words, only the sound of branches cracking. She stopped in front of the tree, looked down at something in the dirt, the necklace. She picked it up, held it to the light, and behind her, the tree creaked, antlers tilting, mouths opening. I watched, powerless, but not unfamiliar. Because now, I was the forest, and the forest was hungry. If you made it this far, you're one of the few who knows what really lurks beneath the trees. Would you ever dare hike the Black Forest alone? Let us know in the comments below. And if the voice felt a bit strange, remember, it's AI generated. Your thoughts help us make it better.